Hello everyone, CrystalFissure here with Louie the dog, Louie the toy poodle. How are you, Louie? You going good? We're going to talk about Toys for Bob today. We're going to talk about Toys for Bob. Now, not toys for you, unfortunately, Toys for Bob, who is at this point an unknown entity. Anyway, we're here to talk about Toys for Bob, and a lot has happened in the last few months. So I wanted to record a video a couple of weeks ago when everything happened with all the layoffs, with the everything going on with the acquisition. And then I was going to sit down this week to finally talk about it with Louie here, and then all of a sudden Toys for Bob becomes an indie studio, which is, if you follow the industry, if you look at the precedent for this, which there is not a massive amount of precedent for this, this is absolutely enormous. Now, no matter what I say, and I've never really been someone that sort of jumped into the Spyro scene in the same way that others have, where I get a lot of criticism or praise or anything like that. I've always kind of stayed fairly neutral. I feel like what I'm going to say is going to make some people happy, and it's going to make other people just irate and furious. Not that we should get bogged down in the discourse, but I feel personally like there's a lot of negativity around not only Spyro, but the Spyro fans, the modern Spyro fans that have had enough of no Spyro and are now taking it out on other fans. But before we get into that, this is all just kind of like a ramble, classic CrystalFissure here, we're just rambling here. I want to talk about what this means for the studio itself, what it means for Toys for Bob. So a few weeks ago, a significant portion of their staff were let go, and that's terrible. And it's one of those things where, sadly, this is not a defense, it is inevitable that this kind of thing happens when you work, when a company is acquired. In the case of Microsoft buying Activision, and so what happens is you have these conflicting departments, you have budgetary reasons that you have to cut people, and it absolutely sucks. And there's no defending it. I do not believe you should have to do that. I believe that it should be able to be done as minimum as it can be. But one of the problems is that what it seems like, if you're sort of following the rumors and people that have sources and stuff like that, it appears that this was going to happen regardless of whether Activision was purchased or not. And that's the problem, is that it seems like it looks more and more like that there might be something a little bit more nefarious to Activision's acquisition, in that they were probably bleeding money in the first place, and they probably almost had to sell. Now that's my belief of it, or if I'm putting two and two together, but I can't, we absolutely can't say it for sure. But anyway, what happens is Toys for Bob, there's all these people let go, they're going to downsize, they're moving to remote work. And to me, it almost seems like the writing was on the wall that something massive was going to have to change. Now, the thing is, for Toys for Bob to become an independent studio, basically Activision and Microsoft would have to agree to this. This is not just something that you can just do and go, oh, we're just going to separate now. Because obviously there are massive implications here. And so, obviously, if you look at the response, if you look at what they say, this is what it says: we're going indie. We're thrilled to announce that Toys for Bob is spinning off as an independent game development studio. Over the years, we've inspired love, joy, and laughter, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff they've done, Skylanders, Spyro, Reignited Trilogy, Crash Bandicoot. We believe now is the time to take the studio and our future games to the next level. This opportunity allows us to return to our roots of being a small and nimble studio. To make this news even more exciting, we're exploring a possible partnership between our new studio and Microsoft. And while we're in the early days of announcing our next game and ways away from making any announcements, our team is excited to develop new stories, new characters, and new gameplay experiences. Our friends at Activision and Microsoft have been extremely supportive of our new direction, and we're confident that we will continue to work closely as part of our future. So this is language that it's confident, but it's absolutely not sure. And this is where I think that people are getting upset, because you kind of have comments where people are saying stuff like, well, there is absolutely no chance that they're working on Spyro now because Spyro is not owned by them. Bear in mind that in the past, it was actually Universal that basically owned the rights to Spyro. And after Spyro had the 3 games with Insomniac, Insomniac were done with them. They never actually owned Spyro's IP. And that's a massive, I guess, tell, because effectively history is almost repeating itself here. Toys for Bob, no. They did not ever own Spyro. They did not ever own Crash. Activision owned Crash. Now, Microsoft owns Activision, therefore Microsoft owns Crash. But what they're able to do is license that IP out to studios, and it doesn't have to be studios directly working for them in the way that they were under Activision. What this does is this gives them so much more freedom to not only work on their own stuff, but develop partnerships again with these other studios. Now, some people have said things like, oh, this is great because now they can work for Sony IPs and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely they can. They can work on Sony stuff if they wanted to. But what it sounds like is they want to actually work with Microsoft. Now, it's interesting how they say that. It's interesting how, and this is where, again, you have to be careful about what people rumble and what people know, Crash Team Rumble, what people know. But if you're reading into it, if you look at people that have sources, and while they have to be kind of quiet about where they got it from, I absolutely trust the people that I have spoken to, and you can say, okay, it's it's sort of passed down the chain or whatever. But if you look at what they've said, it sounds like that there is a lot of, maybe not bad blood isn't the right word, but disagreements within the Activision side and the Toys for Bob side. So what that tells me is that they were looking to separate from Activision and now work directly with Microsoft. Now, I'm sure that involves, that will still have some Activision involvement. But if you just look at what they say here, exploring a possible partnership between a new studio and Microsoft, I think that tells you, to me, all that we need to know about the relationship. Sorry, stop recording for some reason. That tells you all you need to know about the relationship or lack thereof now. So I think that this, what it means is the other thing is that, you look at the end here, and again, this is the thing that annoys people. You see, so keep your horns on and your eyes out for more news. Thank you to our community of players for supporting us through our journey. Okay, so the whole thing is here, with this, and then I'm gonna make a hard statement on this. If you believe that is not a direct tease of Spyro, I really want you to really think about why they would do something like that, because there's either two answers. Either they are a sadistic studio of people that get off on giving people hints and not actually paying them off, which, hey, maybe that's the case, maybe that is the case. Or you simply cannot see that is a direct quote from the Spyro series, and it is the only reference in this entire post that literally is talking about keep your eyes out for more news, keep your horns on. It's like, what do you actually think that would be, and why would you think it wouldn't be a reference to Spyro and a direct kind of wink at what is being done? I'm sorry to be sort of harsh like that, but it's like, I see people that have become so mocking and disrespectful of people that have actually looked out, all of these years for clues and references and stuff like that. And there's such a vitriol towards people that are doing that, as if they're being malicious. And it's just, I've sort of had enough of it. I've had enough of people's behavior about this. I'm the first person to say that I believe that they've in some way missed the mark on doing Spyro as late as it is, because this is where the bad news comes in, right? The bad news comes in, obviously it says that they, while we're early days of announcing our next new game and ways away from making any announcements. That means that if they are working on a Spyro game, which obviously, considering that they want to work with Microsoft and there has to be an agreement and stuff like that, we're not going to get a new Spyro game this year. There's absolutely no chance it's coming out this year. In fact, there's a potential that it might not even come out next year. I think that is far too long. I think that if you want my honest thoughts, I wish they had worked on Spyro from the beginning rather than it being, what's the studio, Crash Team Rumble, which is now ending, right? Ending, and in a way, they did 3 seasons and it sort of becomes like, oh, it's over, like it's over quickly. Okay, technically it probably lasted about as long as Crash Team Racing, but if you think about Crash Team Racing, just at how enthused people were, probably the player base, I'd say it would be larger. But anyway, my rambling point aside here is, it's like, I do think that Spyro, they missed the mark not announcing a Spyro game early. I'm the first person to say that some of these teasers that they've done and stuff like that and little references, it's like, get a move on, let's go. But CG had sort of pointed out there's probably a likely timeline where development could have potentially started. He did an interview with Paul Yan, and he sort of they talked in hypotheticals, but they kind of said, if you were to do a Spyro game, what would you do? They probably, at that point, you could allege that they were maybe working on at a conceptual stage. My point is that, Spyro's not coming for a long time, and I think that sucks. I think we should be living in a world where there is a Spyro game either announced now or coming very, very soon, or even out, right? I do believe that. But I just think that this aggression and anger towards people that dare to have any kind of hope for it is just extremely toxic, and it is loser behavior. Because at the end of the day, Spyro, there have been objectively hints about a new game. There have objectively been references and stuff like that. And you can argue that is maybe cruel to do that if there is nothing coming. But it's obviously, you have to think about this, is that there would have to be internal debate between Toys for Bob or Beanox or whoever's working on something like that and Activision. And there has clearly been disagreements between the studio and the publisher here. And now, obviously then they get their studio gutted. And then they're like, well, that's it, we're out. We are out. We're going to go out and we're going to go through the other way and basically become a second-party developer for Microsoft. So the one other thing about this is that what would happen if there was a potential Spyro game coming out of an indie studio is that if you think about it, it's actually a little bit less risk for Microsoft. But the thing is, there's actually a lot of potential for reward, because you look at it this way. You have Spyro Reignited Trilogy sells 10 million copies. Objectively a success. You cannot say it is not a success. There is no metric where it is not a success. Yes, you can say it's in 5 years. Okay, once the game is out, there was no support for the game. It's much to its detriment. You look at it and it was like, glitches in the PC version that still are there, right? You have mods that fix things up and mods that add different things. There was no custom level like there was with Future Tense, with Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. There was no DLC or anything like that, which there should have been. There should have been a thing behind the door. Look, trust me, I believe that I'm a cynical person in some aspects, and I do believe that I'm a realist, and I also wanted them to do more with Spyro. Like, I'm the last thing from being this extremely positive Spyro fan kind of thing. But I just think that when you look at things in a way that where you can infer things, I think it is absolutely fair to assume. Sorry, cut off again. That there is a fractured relationship between Toys for Bob and Activision. A lot of disagreements, and with what could potentially happen now is that you're having a lot of the risk is shifted off of Microsoft / Activision. And there's a lot of, now you can have something where you're given this budget, or you're given an agreement, you sign an agreement with Toys for Bob or a studio or whatever to make a new Spyro game, and then you have some kind of revenue split on the profit. And the thing is, Toys for Bob never owned Spyro anyway, but now even less so. They have to absolutely individually agree on a per project basis, rather than just being assumed that they're going to be working on these projects. So I know it all is very complicated. I know I'm rambling. I'm very passionate about the subject, the thing is, I get why we don't want to give the corporations the benefit of the doubt here when it comes to Spyro and Activision-Blizzard, all the controversy in the past, the abysmal treatment of workers, sexual assault, all that kind of stuff. We don't want to go into it and go, well, let's believe the billion-dollar company that they're looking out for us, because no, it's ultimately entirely about money. But if you look at this decision by Toys for Bob, by Activision, by Microsoft, I do believe there is absolutely a chance that this will result in something good for the series. I think that I did a whole video before I left for Japan, actually talking about Banjo-Kazooie as well, the whole Banjo-Kazooie thing, where Phil Spencer basically outright teased Banjo-Kazooie. And someone mentioned that, Toys for Bob, potentially work on something like that. I don't think that they will. I think that they'll have another studio. You look at Battletoads, was recently a Rareware game that ended up being developed by a third party, who I don't believe are directly under the Microsoft banner. So there's precedent, and there's a lot of things that can happen. And again, once again, going back to the statement, it's like when they want to work with Microsoft. They're probably starting on something now. Then this thing happens. People get laid off, and now they're like, well, this is what I think is probably going to happen. They're probably trying to come to some agreement to go, all right, give us the rights to Spyro for this game, or let us the license out that so we can do Spyro, and then go from there. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And here's the other thing. This is the other thing about the pressure that is put on, not to be all woe is me, woe is influencers and YouTubers or whatever. But if people are wrong about this, they're wrong about it. It is a prediction. It is not a spoiler. It is not speaking from an objective knowledge. But there are things that people can infer, and there are predictions that you can make, and they can be wrong about, right? And that's okay. This is what I think might happen. Guess what? It absolutely might not happen. And then what do? We move on. It's not about clickbait, it's not about getting views, all that kind of stuff. It's just a discussion. And that's what this is. And that's what it is for a vast majority of people that are talking about Spyro on the internet. We just want someone to talk about it with. We want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, the modding scene, the fan games, you know, the fact that we are waiting here. You know, there's plenty of reason to be disgruntled as a Spyro fan. Like, I'm the first person to say it. You know, it's like, it sucks. It sucks that you could argue that it sucks that this has happened, right? That they had this team, you know, laid off, and then they kind of were, you know, maybe you could argue that their hand was a little bit forced. But again, this is all just kind of just speculating based on the information that's out there. I think that this is going to get a lot more interesting. I'm looking forward to talking about it more. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I think that as well, just to wrap it up here, Crash Team Rumble ending, you can take it two ways. You can take it in a way of there is not enough demand and not enough people at Toys for Bob now that will be able to keep it going as alongside whatever project they're working on. And I think if, gun to my head sort of thing, if I had to have, new Crash Team Rumble stuff or work on a Spyro 4, I'm going to go with Spyro 4. I didn't particularly love Crash Team Rumble. I played it a little bit. I played it every now and then, but I just couldn't fully get into it. Because I just didn't have the time, and the other thing is, like, it's a bit of that, it's a bit of time. The other things coming out, like Yakuza, Like a Dragon that I was playing, and Street Fighter, and all these other games that I'm playing the new games as well. It sort of became like a bit of a, there's no time for this, especially when there's no point to it, right? You were just basically doing the battle pass. But I think with that as well, it proves that, I think that sadly, Rumble just doesn't have the resources to be able to continue working on both. But I think that it's, in the words of, what's that guy from Shrek, it's like, some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, or whatever it is. What's his name again? It's got a really, really inappropriate name if you like to say it in a certain way. I forgot. Shrek, that's a damn shame I forgot. But anyway, so I think that Rumble being gone, it's not a good thing. It is absolutely not, I would not say it's a good thing, but it's something that allows them to now not have to put time into that, which I'm sure will upset many of the fans of the series, and I'm sure many of the developers that were passionate about doing it and probably wanted to do a season 4 and 5 and 6 and all that. Anyway, this is over. Thought we'd just have a chat. Thought we'd get real. Let's be a little bit real. Let's be a little bit more. Let me push back on some of the stuff I've seen lately, because that's sort of what I wanted to talk about. I understand that not everyone in this Spyro community is going to get along, and everyone's going to have different opinions and everything like that. But I think that we need to get a little bit. I think in the words of, it's funny saying this about Ellen DeGeneres, because she ends up being like kind of like a shitty person. It's like, be kind to one another. But I do think that when it comes to like Spyro and stuff like that, we're all on the same team here. We are all on the same team. So let's be nice about it. Let's disagree friendly. Let's not call other people delusional and losers for having hope, and fanboys, and Xbox fanboy, you're a Microsoft fanboy, you're a Sony fanboy. No, let's just have a real discussion about it. I wish the best for Toys for Bob. I wish the best for Toys for Bob. I wish the best for any other studio that's going through the ridiculous amounts of layoffs right now, because the industry it's clearly going through a really rough time, and I sincerely hope that anyone that has lost their job can get back on their feet. And I really just, I wish the best for the industry, because this is a great industry. It's given me so much joy over the years. Spyro, Crash, all that, it's given me so much joy. And I want the people that work on these games to be fairly and financially compensated, and to be safe. That's the other thing, to be safe in the workplace, which sadly, you cannot say that about every workplace. It's not just in gaming, but everywhere. But anyway, hopping off my soapbox now, I'm firmly off my soapbox. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you very, very soon. Goodbye, mwah, and good night, bye-bye.